Every authentic tradition points toward the same possibility that a human being can be transformed, not merely informed, but transformed. And there are many people who study the internal arts. Far fewer become generally internal. My guest today, Grandmaster René Navarro, has spent decades walking this path, where Daoist cultivation, Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, Chinese medicine, Kung Fu healing, and other martial arts are not separate disciplines, but different expressions of a single way of living. Rather than speaking about these traditions as philosophy or belief, René speaks from cultivation, from what the body generally reveals after years of sincere practice. Is this cultivation? In this conversation, we explore what it actually means to cultivate internal energy, not as an idea, but as a lived experience. What is qi? Can it be directly felt? Can it be cultivated? What is the alchemical role of the body's 5 triangle bones? Why are the meridians central to internal development? What is the microcosmic orbit, and how is it developed through practice? Can one project qi and make it feel like electric in the body? And how does a lifetime of disciplined cultivation gradually transform not only the body, but the mind, awareness, and the way we participate in life? So whether your path is through movement, meditation, healing, martial arts, or simply the desire to live more consciously, I think you'll find this conversation with Grandmaster René Navarro both illuminating and deeply practical. I'm Mark Wiley. Welcome to Integral Being. René Navarro, it's good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you also, Mark. Yes.
Now, your martial arts and healing arts journey goes back more than 50 years. Um, it's got to be longer than 50 years. I'm thinking, when did you first begin arnis or kung fu?
Well, I started in 1962 actually with my brother. He was studying a style of Japanese karate, with somebody who lived near Clarkfield.
Hmm.
And so my brother learned a few what they called Pinan forms, and I learned those basic. 1962, this was. I was at the time going to law school in the University of the Philippines. And then I met this young master. His name was Johnny Chutan, through my roommate. All right. When I came home from working in the printing press, I was one of the editors of the school newspaper. I would come home at about 5, 6 in the morning, and I would see them practicing, in our dormitory room. So I met this master, Johnny Chuten, Wong Piak San was his Chinese name. And one day, probably in 1964, I was in the school cafeteria and I sat with him for lunch. And he asked me, "Why are you not studying Kung Fu with me?" He told him, I said, "I did not know that I could study with you." And so we scheduled the private lesson. It was kind of a one-to-one arrangement. And so began my serious study of Chinese martial arts. And I went through the traditional training. You study the stationary positions, all right? Horse, bow and arrow, cat, cross, cross legs, etc., and basic punching. And he spent almost 3 hours pushing me, riding on my back, and with sweep my legs, I would fall on the ground. we were practicing on concrete. So I would stand up and assume the position again, and he would do the same thing again and again, So this was the traditional training, that you very often see in the movies of an initiate who starts off with the horse, and he stands there for a very long time. Uh, but not only for a long time, but for a long period of time. So he would be there doing that position for a few months before he even starts a movement. So
Hmm.
stancing was the basic initiation.
And that's because you have to redevelop your entire musculature to do the traditional kung fu properly, right? So
Yes.
if you can't even withstand that training, you're not serious enough for the master to spend time with you on other training.
Oh, yes. So he he he's actually training your body, all right, to assume certain positions that you do not know, you do not do in your life. So the body is now put into a kind of a matrix, a form, so that it will be able to do the kind of movements that are required in this demanding art. All right. Also, it was a test of character and endurance and
Hmm.
stamina. I mean, if you don't have the passion for it, then you drop out. All right. But I was very persistent. So this went on a few times before I even started to learn a single form. And the lessons were actually basically one-to-one, although every now and then a couple of guys would join us. But it was what you call indoor or inner gate teaching, all right? So there was nobody else there. It was not like an ordinary class with when you have several or a lot of people and then you stand in the back and you imitate the person in front of you. It was one-to-one. So you cannot escape the difficulty, the torture of learning to stand in the horse, for a very long time so that it becomes natural to you. It becomes second nature.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then you begin to learn how to move. From the horse, you go into the bow and arrow. From the bow or an arrow, you go back to the horse. You walk the square horse. All right, and then you combine this. You'd go in a zigzag pattern, and then you begin to move. So it becomes a new language for you. So you're really able to develop a certain ability to move from one point to another, to go forward, to go backward, to go from side to side, all right, shifting from one posture to another. All right, you learn a few forms, fist forms, different animals, and then you learn the very basic staff, a pole that's about 6, 7, 8 feet long, and you learn that. And from that, you learn the sword and other weapons. So this was the curriculum,
Hmm.
uh, technique. You learn to begin to learn to control space, all right, and to develop reflexes. So this is the curriculum that you study in the course of this training. So there is actually a curriculum. This was the curriculum of the Buddhist style that I learned from Janet Chutan. This was the curriculum of the what is called the Shaolin temple style, a Buddhist system of fighting that was developed in the Buddhist temples. And my understanding from Johnny Chuten is that Lao Kim his teacher, where these forms came from, studied in a Buddhist temple in Fujian, probably during the 1880s or the 1890s. Because when I met Lau Kim later on, uh, he was already in his 70s. All right. So I studied with Johnny Chuten for a couple of years, and then he left for his home in Cebu, one of the islands in southern Philippines. And when he came back to Manila, he came to see me and brought me to Chinatown. He introduced me to Lau Kim, the old man who was a lay monk in this Buddhist temple in Fujian. All right. And he asked the old man to teach me because Johnny at that time had no opportunity to be staying in Manila. He had to run a family business in one of the islands. So it was Lau Kim, the old man who was in his 70s or 80s at the time, who began teaching me. It was at the same time a one-to-one relationship. So we would often get together, he and then he would teach me, usually at the Huaeng Athletic Club in Manila's Chinatown in Binondo. And then somebody else, Dr. Jopet Laraya, he became a veterinarian later on. He joined us, and he was a very serious and talented martial artist. So he was my classmate and brother martial artist. So that was the emphasis was the Dragon Tiger Fujian Temple style Kung Fu. You know, my Chinese godfather learned that I was studying Kung Fu. He said, you should study Tai Chi. I did not know what Tai Chi was about at the time. He gave me a card. He said, see my cousin in Chinatown. And his cousin, Chan Bunte, was running this organization called Huaeng. And I went to see him one afternoon. I gave him the card. I said it came from his elder cousin, Chan Lao, was my Chinese godfather. And he looked at it, the card, he put it down, and he resumed reading the newspaper, right? He did not even look at me. And so I waited and waited. I sat in one corner and waited for him to say something, and he did not say anything. Waited a long time, 30 minutes to probably an hour, right? And so I said, bye. I left. And then I came back a couple of times more. He gave me the same silent treatment. Until one day there was a town fiesta, and my Chinese godfather, Chan Lao, invited my family to a party at his house. And Chan Bunte, his cousin, was there. All right. And Chan Lao, my Chinese godfather, asked me, are you studying Tai Chi now? I said, no. And he said, why? I said, your cousin will not even talk to me. And he called Chan Bunte. He said, Rene is my son. You teach him. All right. So Chan Bunte couldn't do anything. You know how it is in a Chinese family, right? The older cousin or relative is the one who has the last word on the matter. So she had to find a way to get me into the Tai Chi class. I was able to join, so I would go there. I will arrive before 7 o'clock in the morning. I had to wake up early, take the bus to Quiapo, from Quezon City to Quiapo. I will walk a mile through Chinatown and then arrive at the school and join these people. And I would stand in the back and then follow this Tai Chi Chuan form. It was derived from the Yang family by Han Chitang, one of the masters who taught in the Philippines back in the 1960s.
Mhm.
All right, a very famous master. And Chan Bunte, after each class, he would call me, right, and we would he would make corrections. He would correct my posture. He would correct the movement. He would describe to me the different ways to maximize your power. Right. One of the things he taught was the use of the scapula. All right. So instead of just putting your hand in here in ward off, you have to learn how to articulate the scapula. All right. So this was the
Mhm.
first time that I heard about this anatomical functions.
Mhm.
And he would also tell me, all right, you assume this position. He said, assume this position, stand in this position for a long time. And he would correct my body, how I should stand. Single whip, he would go like this. It was straight back,
Mhm.
right? And the man would explain, he says, this movement, raising your hands like this and bringing the hands down, he says, this is a heaven movement and this is the earth movement. And I did not know at the time that this was a lesson from the I Ching, the Book of Changes. And he was
Hmm.
explaining to me, all right, this is like this. And then you begin to move. He says, this is yang, this is yin, etc., etc. So became familiar with the vocabulary of Tai
Of the
Chi
I
Chuan.
Ching. So are the movements in Tai Chi related to the trigrams of the I Ching?
Yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, there is a form that has 64 movements that follows the different the different hexagrams of the I Ching.
Hmm.
There are at least a couple of books about it. Anyway, so you begin to understand this from a more profound level, that there is a philosophical background to these different movements. All right. And then as I was doing this form, as I had more experience in this form, uh, Chan Bunte told me to go to the park, to the Luneta in front of the Manila Hotel. It turned out there were other practitioners doing the form there,
Yeah.
all right, every day. So one day I went there and the Chinese group saw me do my form and they asked me to lead the group. So every now and then, whenever I had the time to go to the Luneta, they will ask me to
Yeah.
lead them. And Chan Bunte was very happy. He says, you have a very good form.
Huh.
Um, Many years later on, actually, many years later on, where I went back to the Philippines from the United States. This was in 1986, and I went back to the Luneta, and I saw this man who was my classmate. I recognized him. He was
Huh.
my classmate back in the 1960s, right? And I said, where is your group? He says, we just finished doing the form. And I said, I'm a Filipino. I do Tai Chi. And he did not, apparently, did not recognize me. And he says there was a Filipino who was very good. He used to lead us Tai Chi, he says, but he left for America. And he was actually referring to me, right? And we went out a couple of times, had breakfast in one of the stalls in front of the Manila Hotel. So that's my background. Oh, incidentally, in the school, Huaing, there was also an old man whose name was Chan, also family name was Chan. And I learned Bagua from him.
Hmm.
All right. So he would come early, and then I would follow him, the different movements. He had two children who were also into the art.
So Bagua is the eight trigram boxing, so another connection with the I Ching Book of Change.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I know Luneta Park well, as you know, having trained there many times in Arnis and also at the Chinese Garden. Uh,
Oh, okay.
it's called Rizal Park now, but we all still, martial artists refer to it and locals as the Luneta.
Yeah, it's called Rizal Park, and
Rizal Park. So you started in the Shaolin with Johnny and then with Lao Kim. And then while you were at the Hua Association, where you were studying with Lao Kim, you became a student with Chan Bunti in Tai Chi and also another Chan Sifu in Bagua. When, at what point did you come to an understanding that maybe Tai Chi had a little more to it than just the physical art like the Kung Fu, which is strength and repetition and endurance and speed and power, that,
surprisingly, my awareness of this aspect of Tai Chi was almost instant.
huh,
When I began doing the movement, I felt the energy which I did not feel in the Shaolin in the hard style,
wow,
you know. And at the time, I began to read a book about acupuncture.
okay,
All right. So, raising my hand, I felt the tingling and the warmth in my fingers.
wow,
Uh,
already.
I think the book
It's
was by
amazing.
Felix Mann.
Oh, yes, Acupuncture by Felix Mann. I have my father had it on his
So
bookshelf
it
and I
was by
stole it from
Felix
him.
Mann, right? I
By Felix
studied it, and
Mann.
there was
Yeah,
also the flow of energy there. The long meridian is most active from
yeah,
3 to 5 in the morning.
right,
So I began to learn the cycle of the meridian from the
right.
book of
Lung, large
Felix Mann.
intestine,
I
heart,
think that
spleen,
was
intestine.
that
Yeah,
was the only book that was accessible to the general public at the
yeah.
time.
It was like the first,
Yeah.
one of the
So
first.
here you are doing a simple movement, heaven movement from the I Ching, all right? And actually activating, unconsciously activating the meridians of the fingers. Later on, when I went to acupuncture school, that these are the Jingwell points, right? At the
Right,
tip of the fingers. The lung meridian in the lungs, large intestine, in the index finger, pericardium middle, and then you have the triple warmer in the ring finger and heart and small intestine there. So I learned this, and the I also learned a few acupuncture points. Lao
Lao
Go,
Gong. Right.
all right, Hoku, tiger mouth,
Okay, good.
etc., right? And I know I learned basic trajectory. I did not really go deep into it, but it was enough to open my eyes to the existence of this other reality about the human body. So I began to believe at the time, this was in the 60s, that the body is really composed of different levels
Mm.
of reality. All right. That we are not just physical. There is this tingling in the hand, and I learned that it was called chi. All right. I did not know about chi, but I felt it. And so when I joined the club, Johnny was also studying. All right, he was able to go in and study the Tai Chi form, and then he brought it back. One of our meetings in Manila, reunions in Manila, he demonstrated certain things. He says the Chi is, he translated Chi as air, ere. All right, that's the Tagalog word, air. That's the breath, right? And he said he felt this very strong energy in his body.
Mm,
And now he was doing the different Shaolin movements
mm.
in a very different way where the energy is emphasized. So it confirmed my belief that there is something really going on here in the physical movement, yeah, or beyond the physical movement.
Yeah. What most people don't realize with is that according to the meridian system, the most powerful, the strongest points are on the digits, the fingers and toes, and then they move up the hands and the feet. Um, and that's why stance is important. That's why posture is important. You know, doing Qigong practice is important. The way we hold the hand in Tai Chi is important because you're stimulating those wells of energy to burst forth and move, to circulate.
I only had the rudimentary knowledge of the meridians, right? It was very much later on when I went to acupuncture back in the 90s, 1990s, that I realized the existence of a more elaborate human paradigm, all
Mm-hmm.
right? Where the pathways of the meridians were conduits of energy, and they are actually one of the sources of life. So I got into a more profound understanding of the human body.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So my study began moving from the physical and material to the energetic. And when I began to combine this, I got into a deeper understanding of the martial arts world. I had a better understanding of Tai Chi Chuan. Uh, but of course, to start with, you have to begin with the physical. How do you understand this? How do you uh, align, all right, the physical body so that you are able to activate these different power centers, these different meridians? All right, you have the feet. In the feet, you have uh, 9 points. All right, you have the 5 toes, which have their own meridians. You have the big ball behind the big toe. You have the small ball behind the small toe. You have the side of the foot, and you have the heel. There's 9 points there. Now, how do you align this? What kind of training do you need to be able to access the energy of the earth so that the energy would come up the heel, up your shoulder, and out through your palms? All right, the Laogong. So there are certain exercises to activate this so that you are actually rooted to the earth, so that you're able to draw the energy from the earth. All right. So that's the foundation. And then I was talking about the triangle bones. All right. So here you are. The head is a triangle.
Mm-hmm.
You have the sternum. You have the scapula, triangle. All right. You have the sacrum. They are all triangle bones and they are all pointing downwards. There is a mystical aspect to this. And a very important work in internal alchemy involves the triangle bones. So another question that we can actually address is, how do you align them so that you actually maximize the power and energy of your movement? The spine, right, connects all of this.
Mhm.
Okay, connects all of this from the coccyx up to the cervical, all right, up to the top of your head. Now, if you're going to study the meridians, this is also another connection to this, starting off with the coccyx, the governor channel, right? And then it goes up through the spine, up to the byway, all right? In the area below the area of the perineum, the Huayin, the meeting point of the yin meridians.
Mhm.
And then the terminus of it would be the byway, which
Which
is
is the top
called
of the head.
100 convergence. And it's perhaps no coincidence that these opposite points are directly connected to each other through a line, right? So if you draw a line from the byway to the Huayin, you actually have another meridian, all right? And in the study of the microcosmic orbit, which uh, we learn in the course of our training, you have all of these different power points, which are probably the gates to mystical powers, the ability to see, to hear, all right, to smell, the development of the senses. So uh, in the work on the microcosmic orbit, which involves the a bridging, right, the governor and the conception channel, actually the trajectory touches all of these different points that will allow you to have an extraordinary experience of chi.
I just want to emphasize for people who are listening and can't see you tracing this with your finger, that the governor vessel goes up the back of your body, up the spine, and the conception vessel goes down the front of the body, and that makes an oval loop, and that loop is called the microcosmic orbit. So now the people who are out of the loop, so to speak, on on internal arts training, there we go. We have an acupuncture doll here. Great.
Yeah, so here you are, right? So you start off in here, goes up, the governor, Dumai, goes up and down and terminates in the upper palate, and the conception, Renmai, goes up in here and terminates at the tip of the tongue. And when you raise your tongue to the upper palate, you connect the two meridians. All right. The these two meridians are actually probably the first two meridians that are created in the human being. When the egg splits in the womb, presumably that creates the Renmai and the Dumai and the conception and the Chongmai. So the three ancestral meridians would be those three. The Chongmai would be from below, way in, and then it goes up. It's the thrusting channel. All right. So that's the straight line,
Hmm.
and And then, okay, we're talking about the extraordinary vessel. You have 8 of them, all right? So now we are into that subject, might as well touch upon it. So you have the governor vessel, you have the Renmai, you have the Chongmai, all right? You have the Daimai, which is the belt root,
No, the
and
time.
then you have uh, Chow Mai, Chow Mai, all right, and then the Wei Mai. So these are the 8 extraordinary vessels that are created, you know, when you are in the womb or immediately thereafter. Nobody really knows when they were created, but that is the speculation among the scholars. All right, so aside from the extraordinary vessels, you have the regular channels, which are the 12 meridians. So we have this, right? So we have this material physical aspect of Tai Chi
Mm-hmm.
that gives us a very profound understanding of the human body. And how do you activate this so that you actually are able to access the different experiences that are really magical, all right? So that you actually feel this chi running through your whole body, so that when you do the Tai Chi form, you are not just doing a physical movement, you are actually going through a choreography of chi.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are raising your hands, the different meridians of the arms are activated and you can feel it. All right. When you are standing, pressing your feet to the ground, you can feel the different meridians of the feet. Right. And when you begin to move your body, you can actually feel the different meridians. Perhaps not in isolation or individually, but you can feel this great movement of energy so that you're actually reaching a higher and higher level of development and experience. Yeah, that is why it's called Tai Chi.
The grand
All right,
ultimate.
it's translated as the grand ultimate. It is not an ordinary dance, it's not an ordinary choreography. It is something that is beyond words. A lot of people do not see it as, uh, as as an energetic and spiritual work. It is actually a different kind of journey. All right, you cannot. It's very difficult, probably impossible to describe because these experiences are actually beyond words. All right, I've had experiences where I seem to have traveled somewhere. All right, because my body was feeling very different. I lost a sense of space and time, you know, as if I was actually a different person. So that's part of the transformation. You metamorphose into a different kind of being, as if you've taken a vacation somewhere, that is
Yeah.
not on this earth, right? But then a lot of different factors actually come into play. Different factors. It's not the physical body that is at work here. It is something else combined with different ingredients. You're able to access these experiences that is extraordinary.
One of the main processes, I think, of Tai Chi that helps practitioners get to a level where they can experience that is the focus on posture, breath, or intention, and relaxation. Can you talk about the need for those and the importance of those?
Okay. This is really fascinating. All right. One aspect of the Tai Chi experience is the idea and practice of stillness and emptiness. The different senses distract you from going inwards, of finding it's very difficult to capture this. Stillness is the word that is used in the Dao De Jing, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you look at the verse 16, all right, of the Dao De Jing, it says, become totally empty, quiet the restlessness of the mind. Only then will you witness everything unfolding from emptiness. See all things flourish and dance in endless variation, and once again merge back into perfect emptiness. Their true repose, their true nature. Be still. Stillness reveals the secret of eternity. Eternity embraces the all possible. The all possible leads to a vision of oneness. A vision of oneness brings about universal love. The great truth of nature is Tao. So how do you achieve this? One of the, the Tao Te Ching is a great scripture, and it lays the foundation for all of these different ideas. All right, emptiness, be like water, right? Uh, the senses distract you. So how do you achieve emptiness and stillness? All right, if the senses distract you from this, you have to learn what is known in the art as sealing of the senses. You have to shut off everything.
Yes.
All right, you have to go inward. And in that silence, in that stillness, you'll be able to find a different reality. So the student has to find a teacher who can teach him sealing of the five senses: the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, okay, and then seal the mind. And that is another aspect of Tai Chi Chuan training that students, serious students, have to consider. And if you find a teacher who can teach you this, then you are another step above the ordinary training.
It's like in Buddhism, where they say when you start meditating, you have to turn everything inward and try and see your original face. Basically, in that silence is where you meet the great consciousness, the Tao, or God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you will be able to achieve this experience, right? That's very difficult to describe. Perhaps it's possible the Tao that can be spoken isn't the Tao, right?
That's
The
right.
Tao that can be written is not the Tao. It is beyond. It is something magical, and it's not accessible to everybody. Sadly, there are people who can do it very fast, very quickly. They are gifted. But a lot of people don't have that gift. No matter how hard they try, you know, perhaps they don't have the ability to do it. They are not gifted with the ability to receive this experience. I mean, perhaps some people have had experience of Tai Chi in a previous life, and in this life, they are just continuing the journey. And so they are already evolved and they have reached the stage we can actually reach out and grasp this wonderful art. But not everybody's like that. All right. But this is the beginning. These are the different ideas that make Tai Chi Chuan such a wonderful experience, and make it so different from many other arts. That's why it's called Tai Chi. That's why it's called in English Grand Ultimate. All right, because it allows you this experience that is totally indescribable. So we're talking here about something, right, that's subtle and mysterious. So we try with words. The Daoist canon said, from words to images to silence. All right, we start with word, and then you have an idea of the experiences through the image, and then you reach this place, right, that's totally silent, that's totally still, and that's where you find the heart of Tai Chi Chuan.
When a student, a practitioner or student is on their path of training, sometimes they can be having experiences from the internal alchemy that's occurring during practice, or they could just be having things like nervous system reactions, uh, spinal subluxations affecting the nerves, creating tingling in the hand, or spasm muscles that isn't related to qi, for example. How can one discern a real experience of advancing in the art by feeling or in the body from the true and the false?
There are experiences in with qi that are similar to something symptomatic.
Yes, you said it perfectly quickly,
All right, symptom
succinctly.
of a
I
disease,
should have
right?
sent you my notes and you could have.
Yeah, I can understand that, where tingling of the fingers, for instance, which would be symptom of certain diseases. Let's say carpal tunnel syndrome, you would have
Right.
tingling of the fingers too. All right. But the tingling in Tai Chi, all right, is quite different because there is a sense of wellness.
Mm,
There is a sense that your body is entering a different world. All right. Uh, the tingling. It's really difficult to describe. The tingling in Tai Chi really is a I don't have the word for it. It's almost like a religious experience.
mm.
All right. And usually, when you begin to have a feeling of chi, it starts from emptiness. It starts from being still, so that when you're moving the hands like this, right, there is nothing there. And when you begin, you activate the meridians of the hands. How do you do that? This is one of the things I teach students first. All right. When they learn the first movement, I also teach them how to activate the chi of the fingers, which would be different from your symptomatic
Yes.
problems. Okay. So I
Hmm.
would teach them to do this, flick the fingers. First, you don't feel anything, and then it comes out. The thing with symptoms is that they are there almost all the time. But the experience of Qi comes with your intention. You intend to activate it. So when you do this, you're flicking your fingers, right? You're actually activating the jingle points so that after doing the flicking for 10, 20 times like this, you keep still and you can feel the tingling. Now that is Qi, the activation of the jingle points of the fingers. On a higher level, for instance, in the practice of the microcosmic orbit, right? You can actually feel the chi going to the different pathways, the red mai and the dumai. All right. And then when it reaches a certain power points in the microcosmic orbit, you can actually have a distinct experience of it. I have a picture of the microcosmic orbit here. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
really important ideas behind this is that when you do the microcosmic orbit, you develop certain abilities. Why is it that the development of the microcosmic orbit, these points are aligned to each other? What happens if you're going to connect them? All right, front and back. Instead of going up and down, you go front and back, and what David Berdesi calls the lightning path.
So you're talking about visualizing using the yi or intention to move the energy back and forth from the back of the body to the front along those connecting points in a zigzag pattern like lightning.
Yes, this is
Okay.
just for information, all right?
Yeah.
Because people might be trying it, and who knows what will happen to you.
Yeah.
But there are masters who do this,
Mm-hmm.
and they have achieved great work from doing this. And this is not usually a part of the microcosmic orbit.
Right.
This is part of Nadan, internal alchemy. So what happens if you reach the stage where you're able to do this and you're able to go through this zigzag path of the microcosmic? That's another way of doing the microcosmic, which is not often taught. All right.
And the
And
microcosmic orbit is part of the Neidan practice and Qigong practice, both.
yes,
And that's often a separate curriculum than Tai Chi. So we've moved into another form of internal alchemy or internal arts practice.
I don't know if I will say that's a separate curriculum. It's just like Chan Bunte when he taught me Tai Chi. And then eventually, when I saw him in our hometown, when I went back in 1986, he taught me the microcosmic. And at that time, I had already studied the microcosmic.
Right.
And he told me that this is a part of Tai Chi. This is a very important part of
Mm.
Tai Chi Chuan, he said.
I think it's a missing part in the West. You know, Mantak Chia was very instrumental in publicizing this in his books. That's where a lot of people in the 1980s got their introduction who didn't have teachers. You know, there weren't a lot of teachers teaching this kind of depth. And in Tai Chi today, with the government short form and the wushu version of Tai Chi and all these branches of branches of branches, it's hard to get a full curriculum. It's hard to get a full study.
Yeah, but this is the compartmentalization that has happened in the West.
Yeah,
All right. Some people, it is Tai Chi for arthritis,
right.
Tai Chi for balance, Tai Chi for this, Tai Chi for that, and so you have all of these different uh, compartments that people work on, and then they call it Tai Chi. Is it Tai
Right.
Chi? All right. Fine. The work is fine, to be able to use Tai Chi movements and Tai Chi concepts as a healing for certain symptoms. But at the same time, you're missing the whole point of Tai Chi, because Tai Chi is a huge curriculum. I have described this in my website. When I was studying Tai Chi in the Philippines back in the 1960s, we studied the form. All right. We studied the form, and the experience was very good. Then we studied the different movements for self-defense. You did push hands and so on. And then when you integrate the practice of meridians in it, it becomes more profound. And then I came to the United States, right? And 1983 or 84, I met Mantak Chia, and he was teaching us two short Tai Chi forms. We call them Tai Chi Qigong. The first one was slow, the second one was fast. And he had other courses. He has Janjuang, stationary positions, right? He had Jing, for the tendons and the bone marrow. And then fusion of the five elements. He had microcosmic. He had sexology. These are all a unit, right? A curriculum that includes Tai Chi. So Tai Chi not was not studied in isolation. Before you studied Tai Chi, you studied Janjuang.
Right.
And you
Zhuang are the
tested.
standing post exercises.
Yeah,
For
you're
those who don't
standing
know, right? We
in the
just,
embracing the three position. You're pushed from the sides, from right and left,
right,
front and back. So you're tested. Are you stable? Are you grounded? Are you rooted? All right. And then you study the different movements. You hold the single whip and you are pushed. Your arms are pushed. Your hands are pushed. You're pushed from the back, from the front. And the different positions are tested for stability.
yeah.
Now, and then when I studied with Leong Xium, as far as I can remember, he had the Wu style,
Wu
small
style, right.
frame form.
And
And
Leong
then he
Shum
had
was
push
the,
hand, wonderful push hands, but that's about all that I saw.
yeah,
And there are teachers who only taught Chen Manqing's form, fist form, all right,
yeah.
37 movements. And then when I was in Boston in 1985, a friend, uh, Gunther Weil and Rylan Malone, took me to a school where Ginsun Chu was teaching. Ginsun Chu was my teacher in Boston. Uh, and I saw that they were doing different forms, right? And I decided at that time that this was the master I wanted to study with. This was 85, 86, right? And in 1989, late 1989, I moved to Boston. I left my family and focused on the study of acupuncture, herbology, and Tai Chi Chuan. And he had a different curriculum, which was handed down from Yang Shaojong, the oldest son of Yang Chengpu. And what did this include? Tai Chi walking, Janjuang, all right, Dalu, the great pulling. And then he had a 108 solo fist form, medium frame, tiger style. I said, tiger style, my first time to hear that. And then he had the weapons. He had staff. He had the broadsword, the Dao, right? Three forms of the broadsword. And then the game, the Jan, which he had two forms. I realized when I was studying the Jan that there were two, and the second one was actually a secret form
Mm,
that was not learned by other masters. And then you have push hands, different aspects of it. And then you have Tai Chi Chuan Chang Chuan, which was a slow and fast Tai Chi form. And at that time, I realized that the popular form of Tai Chi of the Yang family had actually been simplified by Yang Chengpu in the 20s and the 30s. He removed a lot of the kicks, he removed a lot of the jumping and the fast movement, he removed certain postures to make it accessible to the public so the public could actually do it. And he was very successful because now it's the most popular Tai Chi Chuan form. But
But
the original Tai Chi was not like that at all. It was not slow. Different masters teach different curriculum. I'm not saying that this curriculum is the best or most effective. What I'm saying is that this seems to have been the curriculum of the Yang family, all right, which very few people actually teach.
yeah,
Here we are, talking about the different curriculum. How many teachers actually teach all these different parts of a curriculum?
right. I think the totality of Tai Chi and the Qigong and Neidan is part of the larger Taoist tradition of Yangsheng, or the nourishing life practices, right?
Yeah,
So that's really where it all originates, I would think, from that kind of cauldron of the way back.
yeah.
Yeah.
The problem in the world, the relationship between the East and West is that the West draws certain practices from the East and then tries to force it into a format that is Western.
Right.
Right. I
Because
remember,
it's our
I
framework.
remember my father used to talk about Procrustes, a Greek
Mm,
character in mythology. He had a kind of a hotel. In his hotel, there was a room, there was a bed, right? He would invite pilgrims, people who journey to sleep in here. And if the man uh, is too short, Procrustes will try to stretch him to fit the bed. And if the man is too long, he will cut off the legs to fit the bed. So this is called Procrustian, right? Fitting something into a box. And that
mhm.
is what is happening with Tai Chi Chuan, among other things. Even acupuncture itself has been shaped to fit this kind of a box. But Tai Chi Chuan probably has suffered most. And we have to think of the culture of the West. What happened? All right. We're in a hurry to achieve something. We don't like to go through all of these different stages of development. We want quick rewards, quick satisfaction in the West, right? We're always in a hurry. We have this frantic lifestyle. All right. The culture of that gave birth to Tai Chi Chuan is more slow, right? Deliberate, and it is actually less stressful.
Yes.
All right. In the West, we think of Tai Chi for relaxation. The word relaxation, right? You do Tai Chi to relax. Hey, come on. And so you have fragments of the art being taught, perhaps for free, and it comes under the name Tai Chi. So people confuse this and they don't understand that Tai Chi is actually a bigger art and includes many, many, many things.
I think if Tai Chi hasn't been taught as just the form, for example, if it was presented as this thing with 20 lotus petals on it, that you have to do all these things, and you're not in China, it's too much for someone, it's too daunting. It's, someone would have to, like you, dedicate your life to it. But for people who are limited to the form, there's still great benefit, right? From just practicing the form if the instruction is correct and is from a teacher who has learned a correct transmission, at least of the form.
Oh, yes, definitely. The Tai Chi Chuan form alone could give you a lot of benefits. The movement alone actually would give you access to certain experiences. And some people who are gifted, who are naturally relaxed, all right, who are not easily distracted, would get more benefits for it.
Right.
So it is actually a great art to learn. So if people are interested in doing only the form, that's fine too. It's a beautiful form. And from the point of view of aesthetics, it's a beautiful form. From a philosophical point of view, it's actually profound. All right. The movements alone. All right. So if a person has an understanding of yin and yang, all right, so they will have an understanding of the idea of the concept of transformation, the idea of changes, how one position can actually evolve into a different position. And as your body moves from one position to another, there would naturally be a certain kind of energy that flows through the body because it was naturally choreographed to activate certain meridians and certain energy centers. Now, I am not saying that the practitioner who goes to this level will reach an achievement where he or she develops the Dantian. Dantian is still another idea and practice in Tai Chi Chuan. All right. Is it a part of Tai Chi Chuan? Of course, it is a part of Tai Chi Chuan. All right. And breathing, some people just do breathing to relax. But Tai Chi Chuan is more profound. When you breathe, there are certain parts of your body, not only the physical body, but certain energetic parts of your body that are activated. All right. So here you are. You are doing the movement. What is it that you are focusing on? What is your intention? All right. Part of the Tai Chi Chuan training is the activation, creation, and activation of the Dantian. And here again, you need a good teacher to be able to point out what it is, how to do it. All right. It is not just a word. It is not just an idea. It's an actual practice, step by step. How do you develop the tien, the lower field? Wang Lipin does not call it Dan Tien. He said there is no Dan until you practice and you create the elixir. Why is it called Dan Tien? He calls it the lower field.
A lot of our listeners aren't familiar with Tai Chi, Chinese medicine, or Qigong. What is the Dantian?
All right, the Dan Tien, Dan is translated as elixir or medicine. All right, Tien is the lower field. So you have this. All right, that's the Dan. You see that point there? That's the pill. That's the
Mm-hmm.
elixir. And this is your laboratory. This is your cauldron. And that's the Tien. That's the field.
Can you raise the paper a bit? Oh, there we go. Thank you.
All right.
Yep.
So you have the Dan Tien. So how do you create the Dan, which is the pill or the medicine or the elixir? And that's a kind of a general word to describe this power, right? this jewel of an achievement, the gong. So how do you achieve that? And where is the field? So you have these two things that you have to create. And where is this Tien, the lower field, located? And there's a lot of controversy about this too. All right, during the time of Hong, when he began to translate the external Weidan, alchemy, to internal Neidan, alchemy, he thought of the locating the Dantian, below the navel, right? Sometimes 3 inches, sometimes 6 inches. People have translated this to be that way. And some people say that it's in the navel. Some people say that's inside. The classic Nanjing, the classic of difficult issues, says that the Dantian is the moving chi between the kidneys, between the navel and the Mingmen in the back. All right. So where is it? And how do you create the lower field? Because you have to have parameters. Uh, Other people would say that you have the field, you don't have to create it. In my experience, I had to do it. I had to create it because I don't know where it is. I have to do the parameters. All right, it is here and between this and this and this and this. And I had to develop the idea of its connection to the meridians, to the Renmai and the Dumai in the lower field, the alignment of the front and the back, the navel and the Mingmen in the back, and the Daimai, gallbladder 26 on the side. If you draw a line between gallbladder 26 on the right to gallbladder 26 on the left, and you draw a line between the navel in front and the Mingmen in the back, you have a Tien, a field. So if the Nanjing is right, that it's between it's the moving chi between the kidneys, then it is somewhere there close. All right, so you can actually visualize where this Dantian is. It is not 3 or 6 inches below the navel. It's inside the body. And then you begin the process of developing the Dantian, the
I,
Dan.
I think some of the confusion comes with the acupuncture training because there's a point called Chi, which is below the navel, and but it's superficial. It's a thumb's depth in or something, a thumbnail's depth in, a chuan, right?
Yeah,
And that is not the same as Dantian, where the chi, the field of the chi or the elixir is, just because the name chi is in the point. The other thing is we're talking about an energy field. How can you see energy? You can't even see electricity unless it's being generated, right? And you
yeah.
can't see air. And these are powers also. And the whole meridian system in the body can't be seen, but you can feel the energy moving through it when you practice Neidan practices. So I think it's that practice of the Qigong. And like you're saying, through that practice, you'll be able to feel the parameters of the field, of the elixir field that you're describing in a GPS kind of format. You're saying here's some locations and go for the center. It matches the classics. Right.
All right. So that's another aspect of Tai Chi Chuan, that is very often ignored or neglected. Uh,
Yeah.
Perhaps not ignored, but actually a lot of people don't know anything about it. And so, through our dialogue here, I hope that people will be able to think about it, all right? I don't expect people to agree with me, but at the same time, give this thing some thought because I've lived through this and I've thought about this for more than
64
60
years.
years actually.
64
Yeah.
years, yeah.
Yeah, and I've spent a lot of time studying the meridians, and I've seen the effect of knowing and practicing certain of these concepts. You know, I did not know much about the development of power and the development of enlightenment and so on until in 2006. No, let me backtrack. I was in Amsterdam teaching there for a month in November of the millennium. And I saw a book. I read it. It's entitled The Magus of Java. I read this book and I said, I want to see this man. And 5 years later, 2005, I was in Turkey teaching with David Berdesi. And he was talking on the phone. He says, Shifu, Shifu. And I asked David, I said, David, who is that? He said, this is the Magus of Java. I said, I'd like to see him. And he said, you will. And then the next year, right, 2006, I get an email from David. He was in Java. And he sent me this email. He says, come to Java, stay with me for a month. So I booked a flight, right? Uh, and I arrived in Java. David picked me up, and the next day we went to see the Magus. His English name was John Chang. So I was introduced to him, and David said, "Shifu, can you give Rene a little demonstration?" And the Magus, John Chang, put his arm like this in front of me. He said, touch me. So I touched him with my index finger and I felt electricity. It was not ordinary sensation, it was really this very strong. And then David said, can you see how much chi Rene has in his Dantian? And he touched my navel and he says, that's 20%.
For a
Yeah, I've
lifetime.
been working on this for decades, right? And I only had 20%.
There's
Anyway,
always your next lifetime, when you come around again.
yeah, and then the Magus asked me to touch his navel, and I felt electricity again. And I told him that I had a rotator cuff injury, right? I couldn't raise my arm uh, above my chest. And he took me to his treatment room. He told me to lie down on one of the tables, and Anna, David's girlfriend at the time, took off her shoes and then held my arm to ground me.
Hmm.
Oh, I said, something is going to happen here.
We're getting serious.
And the Magus inserted 3 needles on my deltoid on a horizontal line. And nothing happened. I did not feel anything. But when he began to manipulate, turn the needles, I was screaming because it was so painful. And I was crying, actually, right? And he did this to the 3 needles. And then a couple of days later on, I came back again, and then he did the same. And then, now my arm, I can raise my arm. I was supposed to teach Tai Chi at the New England School of Acupuncture back in 2006. And I had to cancel it because I couldn't raise my arm. And it felt better. So I was cured. You know, when I had this rotator cuff injury, I went to see a Western doctor. He said it needs surgery. So I learned that to achieve this, what David calls yin yang gong, the ability to emit electricity from your body is developed. This ability is developed through the mating of the yin and yang. So you bring this down, all right, the yang, and you bring the yin up and unite them in the tien, in the field. And if you're successful, you're able to produce electricity. The Magus said it's really very simple. You unite the positive and the negative, you have electricity. But it's not that simple because you have to learn to breathe, you have to learn how to align your body, you have to do certain postures. All right. And this takes a very long time to achieve if you can achieve it at all. And it's very dangerous.
I think a
War.
number of his students had kidney failure.
I heard that when I was in Java in 2014, he was doing meditation to be able to treat his problem, but I don't know the particulars of it. And he died when he was 85 years old, 85, 86, something like that. I don't know from what, but because it involves yin and yang, perhaps heart and kidney, you can have problems with the heart, you can have problems with the kidney. Not everybody, as I said before, is blessed with a gift
Yeah.
so that you can actually do it. If you are not blessed to receive this power, it's possible that you're going to die. So, I don't like to even talk about the particulars of this practice, but you can read the book. But I have experienced this, and David and David also achieved this yin yang gong, so he's able to emit electricity from his body. The next year in 2007, I went to see David in Dalian. He asked me to stay with him for a month, and we went to Huangshan, the Yellow Mountain, and we met the hermits of Huangshan, Suan Kong. He was also able to emit electricity, and he was able to project his chi so that he could burn a piece of paper. Right? I have a photo of it in my book. I suspect that the ability to burn a piece of paper with your chi from your hand and the ability to emit electricity are part of Tai Chi Chuan. Probably they are lost because they are too difficult and too dangerous to develop. That's why I
Yeah.
don't like to go into there.
Tai Chi, just the basic forms of Tai Chi and the meditative aspect, the energy building, the Qigong practices, the Neidan practices. That's a lot for someone to take on and to improve their life greatly. These are embodied practices of developing breath and intention and energy within the body to derive different experiences, hopefully and mostly all for health and wellness, and to move us toward a oneness, that silence that we and all meditators hope to get and receive, where we can become one with the Tao and experience the height of spirituality.
Yeah, I was asking Ginsun Chu, my teacher in Tai Chi, Young Family Tai Chi Chuan. I said, should I study Bagua and Shigi, the two other Taoist martial arts? And he said, this lifetime is not even enough to
Yeah.
master Tai Chi. And so here you are, what is it that you're going to dedicate your life to? It means, hey, I have to give this up, I have to give that up, and I have to eat healthy to have a long life so that I would have more time to study this and practice this. And so you have to make room for it. And you have to go into the other internal arts, the meditation, the Qigong,
And the
and
philosophy.
etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you very much for this enlightening conversation, Renee. It's been a pleasure, as always, to have a few hours to interrupted hours to sit and talk with you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. It's an opportunity. I've been, my wife and I live alone here, and it's very nice to be able to talk to somebody.
I know.
It's great. We should do it again.
We definitely will. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you.